No, you can't do it. You cannot go after parents of kids who commit crimes. It sounds good on paper until you start digging a little bit. So you just heard John mention the top of the hour news there that for the second weekend in the last 3 weekends, we are dealing with the death of a child on the streets of Kansas City, Missouri. This time it's a 14-year-old named Tiandre Gibson who was killed just south of Bannister Road, 12:15 in the morning on Sunday. Now, why the heck a 14-year-old kid is roaming the streets of Kansas City or anywhere at 12:15 in the morning is a separate conversation. But this young man was killed early on Sunday morning, and there was another girl who was shot who was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. We don't have her name, but she also was under the age of 16. So, we have rampant violent crime that is happening with young people in and around not just Kansas City, but all over the nation. You're seeing the crime, especially the violent crime. I mean, look at what happened with Sean Brady, right? The chef in Brookside who looked out the window. He saw that 2 young kids were basically stealing from his vehicle. He went out and confronted them, and one of them shot and killed him. Those were minors as well. You had, very young people involved in the Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooting too. So you're seeing this crime involving younger and younger people. And a lot of that, to me, stems from COVID. A period of time in this country when we had young, vulnerable people home with parents oftentimes who were working 2-3 jobs, oftentimes in homes where people didn't have 2 parents to begin with, and the one stability they had in their lives were taken away from them, and that was school. And we did it to maybe save a 92-year-old lady sitting somewhere in a nursing home. At least that's what we were told. So we screwed a whole generation of young people, and many young people who were the most vulnerable. Not young people where mom could stay home with the kids and try to teach them on the laptops and the iPads and things like that. The most vulnerable in our culture and in our society were hurt by authoritarian COVID policies that really didn't do anything, but were supposedly intended to protect mostly those people who were already approaching the finish line. Some of the worst public policy this country has ever seen. And I think we're paying the price right now because a lot of these young people got involved in lives of crime. So now, fast forward, and we're seeing this happen. I'll give you just a quick example in Kansas City. In 2014, Kansas City had 9 homicides of kids under 17 years old. Excuse me, it was 5 homicides of those under the age of 17. That number this year is 9. Last year it was 18. The year before that was 19. So that's 46 homicides of children in Kansas City over the last 2.5 years. Go back 11 years, the number was 5 total. And this is happening in every major American city. So this morning, this came up on the text line, and somebody texted in, and I didn't read it at the time, but I wanted to bring it up now to you at 9:08. Pete, time to start charging the parents. There are some counties, including recent ones in Georgia and New Jersey, that are going to start doing this. There's a huge problem in certain areas, and the root issue needs to be addressed. Parents need to wake up and take accountability. It sounds good. Like these parents are letting their kids out at 12:15 in the morning. Shame on them. Don't get me wrong. Parenting is a major part of the problem. But it's not always the problem. We've all been dopey kids before. I'm not saying we're out hanging out at 12 in the morning at 16 years old or 14 years old, in the case of this kid over the weekend, and hanging around lowlives with guns. But we all have done really stupid things as kids. That's part of being a young person. You really going to put that on the parents every single time? How do we know that this kid's mother didn't check in on him at 11:30 at night, make sure he was in his room? He sneaks out the window. Like, where do you draw that line? And then how do you prove that? Also, if you're the parents in that situation, you got legal ramifications. You got people who suddenly then have to go to court. They got to hire lawyers. They're probably, a life of poverty as is. Who's going to represent them? How do they defend themselves? And you create a whole nother set of headaches for very vulnerable populations in this country. It sounds good on paper, and I don't disagree that parenting is a major problem. We need stability in the home. But this is not as easy or as black and white as charge the parents and it fixes everything. You have major problems in the household to begin with, and that's how we get here. That's how we end up in this very situation.
It excuses the responsibility of the individual, which is our main thing, right? Look, the kid did, my parents would have told me not to go out. If I sneak out, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right? So somehow you'd have to set up some kind of system where somebody's a habitual offender, blah, 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 create all that rigmarole. How about we just, make the kids responsible? If anything, it's this, they're 14, don't say anything. No.
Charge them as adults.
Yeah, I think we need to look at that end of it.
Absolutely. Now, in New Jersey, they got a lot of attention. Gloucester Township recently passed an ordinance that could hold parents financially liable with potential fines or jail time for their kids' involvement in certain offenses. This is going to kill, no pun intended, the communities that supposedly it's intended to help. You're going to have a bunch of poor people, bunch of single moms whose kids are running rampant all over the streets, and now they're going to have to go to basically court and try to defend themselves from fines and jail time. They're going to be losing jobs, and their kids are knuckleheads. And they know that. Many of them know that. But, man, you're not solving the problem here by doing this. This ordinance in New Jersey, which covers 28 specified offenses, including felonies and minor infractions like vandalism, targets parents who fail to prevent their children from breaking the law. I mean, you want to talk about a gray area of all gray areas? Fail to prevent their children from breaking the law? Come on. And then you're also going to get this. How many of us, this was not me, but people like this, couldn't stand their parents, and when you're dumb and you're 16 and you're 17, you want to get at mom and dad? Go break the law, and then mom and dad are going to jail. I mean, that's extreme, but don't kid yourself. There are a lot of screwed up kids who will potentially take advantage of something like that. This is as simple as taking care of criminals on the streets and low-level offenders as well. Okay? We don't slap people on the wrist for dealing drugs that we don't consider to be all that offensive anymore. I mean, no. We uphold the law in Kansas City and around the country, and we're not going to slap you on the wrist anymore, and we're going to go after you, and we're going to go after your friends, and you're going to see your buddy who's 16 get charged for something as an adult, and you might think twice about a life of crime when you're 15 years old. You just might do it. Let's go to Wes in Gladstone. Wes, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Yeah, charging people with failure to prevent your kid from committing a crime, that sounds like you're infringing on somebody's civil rights, man. I mean, that's just wacko. That's Pete, you're right. It's crazy, man. Now, remember the parents in Michigan who let the kid have the gun and he went to school and shot and killed those people?
Yep.
I think they both got charged, right? But there was actually some meat on the bones of that charge, okay? But just charging a parent because your kid committed a crime, that's almost like the state being able to take over the parenting of your kids.
Yeah, but here's the other problem I have with even in the Michigan case, and you're right, there was more meat on that bone because the kid had all these issues. They gave him access to weapons. Even that one I struggle with because it's like, man, you could find a lot of situations where, while that was a school shooting, so it always gets more attention when you talk about a school shooting in a suburban-ish area. It just draws the headlines. When you talk about gang-related shootings inside of, like, let's say urban cores, there also are mass shootings happening involving kids. And did the parents know that there were access to weapons for those kids? Like, where do you draw that line? My fear with that is that you're picking and choosing, in some cases, based on what draws headlines and what demographics make headlines, and that's not a good situation either.
Well, I'm kind of remembering the Michigan case now, where I think it was the principal or somebody really failed too. The kids should not have been there, right? And I don't think they got charged, So if you're going to get the parents, who else was a contributor in a crime, right? So it does open a huge can of worms.
And that's my fear. And that's exactly my fear with that, Wes. Thank you.
Yep.
The text line is 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO. Pete, there are bad parents, but they cannot be charged with what their stupid kids are doing. We pay cops to do what needs to be done. That's right. We have a justice system for that, for kids. And guess what? If we think it rises to the level of charging them as an adult, that's what we should do. But you start going after parents, man, and that is a whole can of worms, as Wes said, that I want nothing to do with.
We quoted Reagan last week about, right? We've got to stop thinking about every time a crime's committed that society's to blame, right?
Yep, and that's exactly what this would be. Because where do you draw that line? If only you had a better first-grade teacher, it might be A-okay. It might just work out absolutely fine. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio on the phones and also on the text line. Let's go to Blue Springs. Alfonso, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
I had something similar like that in high school. I went to high school in Colorado, and my school had open campus, and I skipped class all the time. And they told my mom, they gave her warning, if I skipped again, they were going to charge her with the crime for me skipping. So it was like that out there in Colorado in the 90s.
Charge her with a crime, or what do you mean? The school can't charge her with a crime?
The city would charge her with a truancy crime for me skipping school.
Oh.
It was in the city I grew up in, yeah. And we had open campus. I go to my buddy's house to play Madden all day. I didn't like social studies. She told him, hey, if you're going to charge me, you're going to take him with you. So that woke me up. She was getting rid of it. I was going to the state if she getting charged with a crime.
Well, that's so let's be honest. What got you to come around is because you were potentially going to face consequences. If it was just her, you might have kept playing Madden.
Yep. And she was serious about it. She said, I'm not getting a legal system for you. She said that y'all can take him with her.
So you're not a fan of this then? Because you do think that the person has to be held responsible.
Yeah, because my kids are knuckleheads. I was a knucklehead. I ran with a bunch of knucklehead kids at 14, 15 years old. If we would have got pulled over in the car, the stuff they had in the car, I would have been getting felonies. And my mom had no idea about it.
Mm-hmm. What Madden were you playing?
Madden 94.
Madden 94? Oh, geez. You're older than you sound, Alfonso. All right. Madden 94. Okay. I was going to look up who was on the cover, but that was when Madden was actually on the cover of his own video game back in 94.
Yeah.
All right, Alfonso. All right. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it. There you go. He might have been playing that on PS1 back in the heyday, too. Jeez. Okay. All right.